Sign. Adrian slid the pen toward me, his tone as flat as if he were handling a routine contract instead of 7 years of feelings. I sat on the crimson leather sofa in the city clerk's office, fingers locked around a single-page divorce agreement. The paper's edges curled like the marriage itself, polished, respectable, but worn blunt by time. He perched ruler straight in a jet-black shirt, cuffs fastened without a millimeter of slack. I stared at his long fingers, once the stars of every girlish daydream in which they would lead me down the aisle. Now I was the one sliding them out of my life, knuckle by knuckle. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. I said nothing and signed my name. Adrian rose, handed the folder to the clerk with the brisk efficiency of passing over a briefcase. "Marriage certificate," he said. "And her state-issued photo ID." The clerk nodded, fingers tapping the keyboard. 5 minutes later, a green divorce decree snapped beneath the red stamp and landed in my palm. I managed a smile. "Alex." Adrian glanced down as if a sentence balanced on the tip of his tongue, then simply adjusted the collar of his trench coat. "You have nothing to say?" I asked. He met my eyes, no warmth, no hesitation. "What do you want to hear?" I laughed, the sound pale and brittle. "An apology, maybe." He blinked once. "You aren't exactly innocent, Ivy." My fingers twitched, but I nodded anyway. "Fair enough. Let's call it even." He turned without another syllable and walked away. Outside, the sun hurled bright knives of light across the plaza that gilded his retreating silhouette. I watched until it dissolved into the crowd, then let my hand drop to my stomach. Inside me, a life the size of a thumbprint fluttered, barely 12 weeks old. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry," I whispered. "Mommy couldn't make him love you." Back in the car, I sat motionless while my iPhone vibrated like a trapped bee. "Ivy, are you insane? You're divorcing him while you're carrying his baby?" It was Zoe. My thumb hovered, then drifted away. Another bubble popped up. "You're really not going to tell him?" I stared until the screen dimmed, then typed 4 letters. "Nope. What would be the point? Does he love me?" This marriage had always been his parents' deadline, not his vow. He could skip our wedding day, fly overseas the night I hit 102 fever, mutter, "Are you this desperate for sympathy?" when morning sickness flattened me. Not once had he asked, "Ivy, how are you doing, really?" That night I returned to my studio, woke up and threw up until my ribs shook. Clutching the basin, I knelt on cold tile while tears dripped soundlessly into the swirl of water. The phone rang again. "Adrian." I hesitated 2 pulse beats before answering. A beat of silence, then, "You left your state ID at my place. Come get it now, or should I overnight it?" Eyes shut, I swallowed the taste of bile. "I'll pick it up tomorrow." "Fine." Just as the line almost snapped, I said, "Adrian." "Yeah? Don't come looking for me again. We're nothing now." "Got it." The dead click hurt worse than the word divorce. I watched the dark window until sunrise. The next afternoon his housekeeper let me in. Standing in the penthouse I had once called home, I felt the eerie hush of a museum after closing. The leather folder he carried to board meetings lay on the coffee table, the shirt I'd laundered for him last month hung yellowed on the balcony. Mrs. Huang pressed an envelope into my hand. "Everything's inside." "He's swamped." "You." "Alex," I cut in gently. Her gaze begged me to reconsider. "You really won't tell him?" I studied the hardwood planks. "He doesn't need to know. The baby will be born, but not into his world. If I'm tainted in his eyes, let me stay toxic, far away." In the elevator bay, those doors slid open to reveal Adrian in a tailored suit, buttons aligned with mathematical precision. His brows pinched. "Why didn't you wait? You said mailing was fine," I answered, voice level. "I wanted it over." Silence. I smiled, brittle and bright. "I've got my things, Mr. Cross. We're officially strangers." "You're really leaving?" Low, almost gravel. I lifted my chin. "Isn't that what you wanted?" Consider your wish granted. His mouth parted, but no sound escaped. I brushed past him, never once looking back, yet feeling the graze of his stare slice down my spine like a scalpel. That night I walked the riverfront alone. Gusts slashed my coat and made my eyes stream. Strangely, I felt lighter, untethered. No more groveling, no more midnight door watching, no more pretending I'm fine. I had just flagged a cab when my phone vibrated once more. Prenatal labs are in. Positive, you're definitely pregnant. The letters blurred. My hands shook as if winter had slipped under my skin. The most absurd truth blared in my skull. I'm pregnant, and the father will never know. 3 years earlier, Adrian and I had eloped. I was 23, fresh in my admin assistant seat at Cross Holdings. He was 30, the youngest executive director on the org chart. The first time I saw him, he sat in conference room 9, flipping contracts, gaze calm and glacial, like a midwinter ocean beckoning from a cliff's edge. Naive me actually believed destiny was romantic. It was a setup from the start. His mother forced the marriage. Eleanor Cross, society's iron matriarch with a pedigree complex, deemed my middle-class pedigree invisible until her diagnosis. Suddenly her only wish was to see Adrian settled. Next thing I knew, I was transferred to his wing because, supposedly, I looked quiet, obedient, presentable. Translation: easily herded. And yes, I loved him. I never hid that. Even on our courthouse steps I thought hearts could be cultivated like winter roses. The coldest thing on earth, turns out, is unreciprocated devotion. Year 1, he rarely came home. My iMessage: what time will you be back? Him: working late, don't wait up. Once a 103-degree fever had me hallucinating at 1 a.m., I called. He replied, there's Tylenol in the drawer, right? Crying, I asked, Adrian, am I your wife or not? 2-second pause. Then stop acting like a child. After that I learned the art of silence. I thought if I never barked, he might eventually stroke my fur. I believed diligence could thaw permafrost, until the afternoon I pushed open his office door and found Blake in his arms. Blake, first love, college sweetheart, now the new VP of acquisitions. Through the cracked door I heard her murmur, Adrian, I know you still feel it. He didn't push her away, didn't refute. That tableau deleted every illusion in one stroke. I spun on my heel, no tears, no confrontation. Home again, fever flared, morning brought the double lines on a white stick. Before I could assemble the words to tell him, a manila envelope waited on the breakfast table. Divorce agreement. He sipped espresso in immaculate black cotton, commas commenting on whether, Ivy, the kettle's on. My voice rattled. Why? You and Simon, don't assume I'm blind. I froze. Excuse me? Midnight texts, 2 a.m. rendezvous. I've read the logs. Sudden clarity, he'd stitched random pixels into a scandal. Simon, my college buddy, drunk dumped one night, I let him crash on my sofa, nothing else. Adrian saw the footprints, never asked for the map. I stepped closer, throat raw. Do you believe me? He lifted his gaze, verdict without jury. You're not worth trusting. A laugh escaped me, hollow and final. All the patience, all the crumbs I'd accepted, obliterated by 4 words. I didn't argue, didn't beg. I pivoted, walked into the guest room, and packed. I knew this marriage no longer needed me. He couldn't even be bothered to ask, how do you explain yourself? That alone said everything. With Zoe's help I moved out. While we hauled the suitcases she cursed under her breath, Adrian is scum. You're carrying his kid and he has the nerve to doubt your loyalty, blind bastard. I sat on the edge of the studio walk-up bed, palm curved over my belly, and whispered, stop yelling. I don't want the baby to hear. She froze, eyes rimming red. You're still protecting him? I shook my head. Not protecting, letting go. I don't want him left in my life anymore. Days crawled by and I learned how to live alone. Each night I played lullabies for the baby, swallowed folic acid at dawn, never missed a monthly prenatal checkup. The child was a miracle, towing me through the darkest stretch I'd ever walked. I remember one afternoon after a checkup. Snow was falling. I stood on the balcony of the walk-up, hugging a hot water bag, staring at the white blurred sky. My iPhone lit up. Caller ID, Adrian. I hesitated a beat, then answered. His familiar cool voice came through. I mailed your state-issued photo ID. Softly I said, Alex. He paused several seconds. Are you all right? I hesitated, then replied, doing fine. He said nothing more. After the line went dead, a sentence drifted into my head. Some people, once missed, are missed forever. Adrian first doubted his own judgment 7 days after the divorce. He automatically came home, pushed the door open, and the apartment felt hollow enough to echo. The fuzzy beige slippers by the entrance were gone, the pair that had lain in the exact same spot for 2 years. In the bedroom, the kitten-shaped alarm clock had disappeared too. She'd picked it up at a night market, calling it cute and useful. He frowned and yanked open the wardrobe. Every garment of hers had vanished, even the fluffy pajamas he'd mocked 100 times. She had really left. Adrian stood in the stripped bedroom, a sudden irritation flaring. He pulled out his iPhone, opened iMessage. The thread still stopped on divorce day lines. Don't look for me again. Weary nothing now. He stared at the characters so long his vision blurred, yet his thumbs couldn't type a single letter. He'd assumed this clean exit would last a few days at most. Ivy was soft, foolish, one sob reddened her nose, and whenever they argued she always said, "Let's not fight." She loved him. That had been his fixed truth. But this time she had walked away so completely that no trace of return remained. 2 weeks later a call came. It was the hospital. Hello, is this Mr. Cross? We can't reach Ms. Vance. Her prenatal results are ready. Could you let her know she needs a follow-up? Adrian gripped the phone, brain white static blank. Excuse me, what? Her prenatal report. She's 12 weeks along and needs scheduled checkups. The voice on the line stayed clinical, routine. He heard only 2 syllables, pregnant. His throat tightened. After an eternity he managed, "You're sure? There's no mistake? This is Rinnan OBGYN. Ms. Vance is registered with us. We don't make errors. She is definitely pregnant." Adrian didn't sleep that night. He tore through every contact, college roommates, reception desk, former coworkers. All gave the same answer. She resigned. We can't reach her. He went to her old studio walk-up. The lock had been changed, a young couple now inside. He phoned her parents. They rejected the call, then blocked him. Overnight the woman had evaporated from Earth, taking his child, leaving no breadcrumb. That evening, for the first time, he stood at the window and smoked. He didn't smoke, never had. But that night cigarettes burned one after another, his chest feeling yanked open, tissue raw. He suddenly remembered her once asking, "Do you even like kids?" He'd been reading a deck, hadn't looked up. Noisy. She'd given a soft O and never reopened the subject. Apparently she'd already been toying with the idea of a baby. He drove to the hospital. Outside OBGYN, mothers filed in and out, some leaning on husbands, some waddling solo. He stood like a man exiled from the world. A nurse asked, "Who are you here for?" "Ivy," he said. The nurse flipped pages. "She missed her last appointment a month ago. We can't reach her either." He swallowed. "The emergency contact she listed, is that me?" "Correct." He stayed silent a moment. "If she never comes back, what happens to the child?" The nurse stared, wordless. A broken laugh escaped him, a single tear slid to the corner of his eye like cold sweat. He remained outside the department until night bled into morning. He recalled she always carried home a mandarin after each checkup. Why mandarins every time, he had asked. She'd laughed, "Dunno, doctor says vitamin C. And I think the baby will like them." Back then he'd only wrinkled his brow. Now, remembering the way her eyes sparkled when she said baby, he felt like flint. For days he combed every private obstetrics ward. He threw the Cross name around, hired detectives. The answer stayed the same, no trace. She had truly disappeared. He began to dream of her nightly. In the dream she wore white, standing riverside, cradling an infant, turning to smile. "Adrian, Look, our son. He jerked awake before dawn, heart hammering like it would rip loose. He opened the chat window, still ending at her line. Don't look for me again. Thumb trembling, he typed. Ivy, where are you? The message launched into silence. He sprinted to every place she might haunt, her favorite cafe, the night market corner, the studio she'd mentioned for maternity photos. She was nowhere. The girl who had always lingered had finally, completely, vanished. And he understood, he might never get her back. Southport winters hold no snow, but the wind slices bone deep. When I moved from Northbridge, my bump had just begun to curve. Dragging my suitcase up the rental stoop, I felt a surreal tilt, less like leaving home than escaping a cage. Zoe found the place for me, an old 3-story red brick in Southport's quiet quarter, neighbors mild, landlady kindly. Not afraid living alone? She asked. I smiled, fingers spread over my stomach. I'm not alone. The tiny life inside was the warmest company I could wish for. Southport's maternity wards lagged behind Northbridge's, yet I chose the best private clinic in town. Each visit I rode the bus alone. The doctor warned, don't travel solo in the 2nd and 3rd trimesters, it's risky. I nodded. I'll be careful. But careful is a word. Apart from me, no escort existed. I dared not tell my parents. They're aging, fragile. They'd never accept their daughter birthing alone with no plan to remarry. They delivered me into matrimony praying for stability. That citadel only scarred me. I don't blame them, but I won't load more worry on their backs. I must hold myself up. Time crawled and sprinted at once. Slow, because I counted days toward delivery, belly growing heavier, every motion harder. Fast, because the child stretched like a shoot, daily micro shifts. The first flutter arrived on an ordinary afternoon. I was curled in the balcony rocker reading when something tapped lightly from within. I thought it imagination until the tender, insistent bump came again. I couldn't help laughing. Is that you, sweetheart? No voice answered. But I knew he heard. I bought his first pair of baby socks, blue, the exact shade of Adrian's favorite shirt. I don't know why I did it. I'd sworn to sever every thread tying me to that man, yet in a careless second memory yanked me back. Maybe when you've loved too long, even hate tires. As delivery neared, I started serious preparations. My landlady hired a birth doula for me, her distant cousin, Mrs. Huang, brisk and sharp. Where's the father? Not showing up, she demanded the day we met. I smiled. No father. She blinked, then dropped the subject, tucking in sheets, brewing broths, never letting a detail slide. Some nights I jerked awake from nightmares. In the dream, Adrian was standing outside the operating room, his face twisted with panic as he shouted, Ivy, don't you dare leave me. I was crying inside the dream. Don't come anymore. It's too late. Then I woke up. When I opened my eyes, there was only Mrs. Huang's steady snores and the wind howling past the window. The day I gave birth, I almost passed out. The contractions went on for more than 10 hours. I was nearly drained empty. The doctor said the baby was breech and we needed an emergency C-section. As they wheeled me in, the only thing left in my ears was a high-pitched buzz. In the haze, a nurse asked who my emergency contact was. I parted my lips, about to say Adrian, but ended up closing my eyes. No one, I answered. Just me. The moment the child was born, I didn't cry. When the doctor lifted him to my face, I was dazed. A boy, skin wrinkled, wailing his lungs out. I stared at his tiny fists and suddenly felt my eyes burn. Sweetheart, I'm sorry, I whispered. Mommy didn't give you a whole family. For days afterward I could barely move. Every shift of the incision felt like my soul being torn. Mrs. Huang looked after the baby beside me, flustered yet clumsily gentle. This little guy really takes after you, she said. I looked down at him, but his eyes were Adrian's. That black, calm, fathomless black. I drew him gently into my arms and shut my eyes. Even if he never knows, even if no one ever tells him, his father is someone who will never appear in our lives. During my confinement I didn't touch my iPhone, didn't reach out to anyone. Zoe sent a flood of messages, I answered none. I didn't want anyone tipping Adrian off that I was still breathing. He searched, I knew. I could even picture him walking the hospital corridors, pulling records, calling my parents, chasing the scattered clues all the way to that small southern town. But I simply wouldn't let him find me. Not because I was sulking, but because I refused to go back. My child and I, starting now, were an entire universe. A universe outside of him. The day my month-long confinement ended, I moved us into another apartment. New address, new number, every social media account deleted. With my son in my arms, I went to live again. I was no longer Avery, no one's accessory, no shadow for people to sneer at. I was Ivy, a mother, a woman, someone worthy of being truly loved. Adrian only discovered I'd had the baby after 6 full months of silence. Those 6 months he had combed through the birth registries of every hospital in Southport. Zoe was the one who finally threw him a clue. That day she couldn't bear the sight of him anymore. While she was on the table, her incision nearly splitting open, "Where were you?" she demanded outside the executive suite, voice hoarse as torn cloth. "You watched coldly while she was pushed into the abyss, and now you put on this devoted act?" He sat in his swivel chair, motionless, nailed to the leather like a spike, even breathing hurt. Zoe clenched her teeth and slapped an address onto his desk, last place she rented. "Do whatever you want." She left without looking back. That afternoon Adrian drove to Southport. All the way the sun shone brilliantly, the sky scrubbed clean, flawless. But inside him storm clouds rolled. He remembered Ivy saying she loved the town's slow rhythm, the old man selling candied crabapples on the corner, the grandpas doing tai chi under the sun. He'd said, "Too noisy." She never mentioned moving again. He had also said, "If you like it so much, move there yourself." She had smiled, "You won't come with me?" He'd given her a look and replied, "I don't have time for make-believe." Now, as he finally drove into the city she had once wanted to tailor, he realized she hadn't been playing house. She had truly meant to live her whole life alone. He knocked on the door of the small red brick house. A woman nearing 50, the landlord, answered. "Excuse me, is Ivy still here?" The woman frowned. "Moved away months ago, took the little one with her." Adrian froze. "Little one? How old?" The landlord thought. "Barely a month, tiny thing, cute as a button." His throat went dry. "You're sure it was her child?" "Of course it was hers, not mine," she snapped. "Poor girl had no one when they cut her open, 7 stitches. My cousin helped her through the month." Sigh. It felt like lightning struck his ears. His vision blackened, his knees buckled. She had really given birth alone, and the child was his. He didn't know how he walked back to the car. Sitting behind the wheel, he watched the sky darken as if it might collapse. He had never imagined the woman who used to wait up for him night after night would endure that pain by herself. He hadn't known there was a kind of regret that could crush a man's pride and reason without a sound. He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. Suddenly he had to see her, even if only from a distance. As long as she was still out there, he still had a chance. He called in every favor. Finally, outside a private early learning center, he spotted her. She wore a cream linen dress, cradling a baby that smelled of milk, gently rocking him to sleep. Sunlight crowned her hair in soft gold. The child curled against her, sound asleep. That instant Adrian wanted to weep. The scene he had pictured countless times was now real. Except he stood outside the frame. Not husband, not father, just a stranger. He forced himself to walk closer. "Ivy." She lifted her gaze, no surprise, no panic, not even hatred. Only quiet calm. "Mr. Cross, is there something?" She no longer called him Adrian. That distance hurt more than any cursing. His Adam's apple bobbed. "The baby, he's mine, isn't he?" She met his eyes and said nothing. Silence was answer enough. He stepped closer. "Ivy, I didn't know, honestly, had no idea you were pregnant." She gave a cool laugh. "You never noticed whether I'd eaten. Why would you notice I was carrying a child?" He was stunned. Weariness flickered in her gaze, yet it was steady. "I can raise him by myself." You don't need to be involved. Ivy, don't. She cut him off. Hearing my name from your mouth only sickens me. For the first time he dropped to his knees in front of her. On the sidewalk outside the center, people streaming past. He didn't care. He knelt, hands trembling. Ivy, I'm sorry. Hit me, scream at me, just don't shut me out. Let me make this right. Let me give us, a whole family. Let me start over. For a split second her eyes wavered. Then she simply held the baby tighter. Looking down at him, she spoke each word clearly. He already has a home. Only you're not in it. That was the day Adrian learned that some mistakes, once made, can never be undone. He drove back to Northbridge in a trance. Rain greeted his return. The first autumn rain, cold as slivers of ice. He sat at the floor-to-ceiling window of his office, tailored suit soaked through, too exhausted to change. His secretary hovered by the door. Mr. Cross, the board has been waiting half an hour. He didn't turn. Call it off. Tell them I'm not talking. The door shut softly. He stared at the document on the desktop. Stock gift agreement. Adrian voluntarily transfers 45% of cross-media holdings to Ivy as compensation for marital and child support obligations. He signed. She didn't. He tried everything. She wouldn't see him, wouldn't pick up, wouldn't read a word. So he sent one iMessage a day, like entries in a diary. Raining here, cold your way? Has the little guy rolled over yet? Ivy, I dreamed of you. You said you were tired of looking back. She never answered. Each text sank like a bottle in the sea, not even a bubble to show it had landed. Adrian began to orbit her life. He sent formula, diapers, toys, top brands. She sent every package back. A teacher at the center urged her, "The dad really means it, look at those dark circles." She answered with a faint smile, "He earned them." One night he stood outside her door until dawn. 3 a.m., bitter frost. She stepped out with the trash and found him slumped there like a rain-drenched dog, eyes bloodshot, lips white. She paused, then tossed him a dry towel. "Wipe yourself." He clutched it, voice hoarse. "Ivy, you'll see me?" She only shut the door gently. "I'm afraid my son will get scared." At that instant, what hurt more than rejection was the way she said "my son." She never once said "our son." Later, he really did transfer the shares into her name. He entrusted a lawyer, every notarization complete, only her signature was missing. Zoe glanced at the agreement and sucked in a breath. Is he insane? This isn't pocket change. I took the file and skimmed a few pages, my tone calm. Let him keep all this and slowly choke on his regret. Zoe stared at me. It doesn't tempt you at all? My heart already rotted from temptation. Now the only thing moving is my brain. Truth was, I was exhausted. Raising a child alone isn't easy. At night when he cried, I rocked him. When he ran a fever, I carried him to the hospital. When the pipes burst, I crouched on the floor and fixed them myself. I'm no superhero. But I'm also no longer the fool who burst into tears the moment he said, "You don't deserve my trust." The day my son turned 1, I took him to the beach. Southport Sea is shallow and warm. I stood in the surf, holding him, the wind making him giggle. I bent and kissed his little face. "Sweetheart, Alex, you came to find mommy. From now on we rely on no one, just ourselves, okay?" He didn't understand, but he smiled, milk still scenting the corners of his mouth. Adrian still texted every single day. Tonight was the company gala. You always said it was too loud and wanted to sneak out for late-night skewers. Do you know? Since you left, I haven't dared look at a single grill stand. Ivy, when will you look at me again? I never reply. Not because I hate him. Because some love sours the moment its expiration date passes. And now I have to learn to hold the umbrella alone. I eased back into work. I wrote under my old college handle, shot short videos, kept parenting diaries. Within months I'd racked up hundreds of thousands of followers. Advertising money started rolling in, my sons and my life kept getting better. I applied for an LLC certificate and launched my own maternity brand. I named it Ceres Moon. My Sare, his A. I didn't hate him, I just sealed every memory of us inside those 2 syllables. Then I never spoke of it again. 3 years later, Cross Holdings and Ceres Moon signed a formal strategic cooperation agreement. Adrian stood at the signing venue, throat tightening at the sight of the woman in the white tailored suit presiding over the table. Her makeup was immaculate, lips brushed with clean nude, gaze sharp as a drawn blade. She looked at him like a stranger. They had shared a bed for 3 years, more than 700 nights, yet he had never truly read her. Now, every word she uttered felt like a whip across his pride. Before the signing, the VP whispered, "Mr. Cross, Ceres Moon's principal came in person, named Vance." Ivy. His pen slipped through his fingers. "What?" "Ivy," the VP repeated, adjusting his glasses. "Founder and CEO. Explosive growth, 2 funding rounds closed." He stared at the documents, mute, until the conference door opened and that familiar yet foreign silhouette walked in. Everyone rose. She inclined her head. "Sorry to keep you." He lifted his eyes, heart lurching the instant he saw her. She had truly changed. The innate softness was still there, but the humility he once ground to dust had been stripped clean. She was Ivy of Ceres Moon, no longer Avery. Throughout the meeting she spoke only industry jargon, voice cool, logic flawless. Adrian heard none of it. His gaze pinned to her like a runaway prisoner who'd finally found the way home. When the meeting ended, he mustered courage and rushed after her. "Ivy." She paused and turned slowly. "Mr. Cross, is something else needed?" That intimate Adrian from 3 years ago seemed to have been carried off by the wind. His voice was hoarse. "Have you been well?" She smiled. "Quite. Southeast Asia launch next quarter, orders booked through next year." "The child?" he asked. "Is he well?" Her gaze dimmed, answer light, "He's fine. Doesn't require your concern. I want to see him. I, however, don't want him meeting the man who once abandoned his mother." His eyes bled pain. "Ivy, I'm not Ivy." She regarded him calmly, each word measured, merciless. "Mr. Cross. My name is Ivy. Please remember it." It felt like a public slap. His heart seemed nailed to the air, pulsing only with agony. He watched her walk away, stride decisive, not a second's hesitation. The woman who once wavered, waited, bent herself for him, gone for good. Cooperation Day, Adrian stood before the signing board, fingers trembling. Ivy lifted the pen and signed in one fluid stroke. The instant the contract took effect, he understood. She had come for business. He didn't even qualify as ex-husband. Later, a photo circulated from an upscale cocktail reception. Emery on stage beside a rising investment titan. The man raised his glass. She answered with a textbook-perfect smile, polite, remote. Adrian sat in his office, staring at the image until the light dimmed. His assistant knocked. "Mr. Cross, quarterly report." He cut in. "Do you think she's happy now?" The assistant blinked. "Who?" He offered no answer, only turned the photo face down. Night after night he lost sleep. 3 years ago she had stood at the city clerk's office and whispered, "Don't come looking for me anymore." He'd thought it was a tantrum. Only now did he realize it had been her final ounce of strength, letting go. And he, 3 years late, finally grasped her meaning. "I intend to live the rest of my life without you." When Adrian sought a lawyer, his voice was gravel. "I want to see him. My son." The lawyer hesitated. "Are you filing for custody?" He nodded. The lawyer slid a folder forward. "Mr. Cross, here's the public record on Ivy and her child. Stable income, thriving company, safe residence, no legal issues, premium schooling, healthy child. Legally, she's the ideal sole guardian." Adrian's fingertips quivered. "What about me?" The lawyer met his eyes, and said nothing. Silence can be the cruelest verdict. Still he refused to quit. Even a sliver of hope was worth fighting for. Not for revenge, not for pride. Because that was his child. He had already missed the woman, he would not miss their son. The day Ivy received the cease and desist, she just wrapped a live stream sale. She eyed the red-letter envelope, lips curling in a faint smile. Zoe exploded. Is he deranged? Custody? He has the gall? Ivy stayed unruffled. He absolutely has the gall. He thinks money and power can buy the world back. Zoe slapped the table. Hit back, hard, Ivy replied, naturally. And I'll make him stand up in court and admit he isn't worthy. 2 days before trial they met in the mediation room, court-mandated yet colder than any verdict. Adrian wore black, eyes bloodshot, as if sleep had deserted him. Ivy showed up in crisp white, child balanced on her hip, face placid. The boy hid against her chest, round dark eyes peeking at the stranger. Adrian swallowed. I only want to watch him grow. Not to steal, just to let him know I'm his father. Rowan, voice soft, tone glacial. Father? When exactly did this revelation strike? When I waddled into the OR alone to sign the C-section papers? Or the nights I paced until dawn while he burned with fever and vomited milk? Or the moment you watched me sign the divorce decree without blinking? His breath snagged. Ivy, I know I was wrong. Wrong isn't the problem, she countered, each syllable honed. Problem is, some mistakes can't be rewound. You skipped the hardest first year of his life and now expect a red carpet? You don't deserve it. Adrian's eyes reddened. I just want some way to make amends. Your amends, she cut in, expired long ago. Mediation collapsed, the case moved to open court. But on the docket morning Adrian voluntarily withdrew the petition. No one forced him, the law hadn't struck him down. That morning he saw a photograph, the boy on a tiny scooter, chasing her through the sun, laughing so hard he wobbled, fell. She sprinted, scooped him up, patted his back and rocked him, tenderness spilling from her smile. Adrian finally understood that was home, and he was the trespasser who had broken in. He dropped the lawsuit and called her. I'm done fighting. You were right. I don't deserve him. But Ivy, I'll stay as close as you'll let me, and watch over both of you. When you're tired, I'll still be there. She never answered, and he never reached out again. One dawn he sat in the car and watched, distant, while she led the boy to a food cart. She bought a steamed bun, bit off a piece, fed him. Sauce dotted the child's lip, she wiped it away with a tissue, patience and love brimming in her eyes. That was the gentle universe she had built alone, he had no permission to step inside. He looked down at the iMessage thread. Sweetheart, Daddy was wrong. When you're grown, if you ever want to know me, I'll wait. You can hate me, pretend I never existed. Just be happy, that's enough for Dad. He tapped send. A moment later the notice popped up, delivered, but recipient blocked. The call reached Ivy late at night. She had just rocked the baby to sleep and was sorting files for tomorrow's flight when the screen lit, caller ID Zoe. Hello? Zoe's voice was usually bright, tonight it shook. Ivy. Adrian's had an accident. Ellis. Night air sliced through the window gap. She clutched her collar, something leaden pressing against her chest. Zoe asked carefully, will you come? Silence stretched. Finally, I'm not family, I can't sign the papers. Notify the Cross household. Click. She never went to the hospital. She simply stood on the balcony, staring at Southport's neon blur, eyes hollow. The curtain flapped gently, same as the night 3 years earlier when she'd waited on the Cross terrace, fever burning at 104. She had begged him to come home, he'd said he was closing a deal and told her to stop making scenes. She had curled around a cold quilt and cried herself to sleep. That night she hadn't died. Tonight he lay struggling for every breath. She couldn't decide if fate felt like justice. Next morning she took the boy to preschool as usual. Sunlight pooled, he dashed to the slide, sweating, chanting, Mommy, am I Riley or not Riley? She smiled down. Riley. We're the best. At noon Zoe rang again. He's awake. He keeps saying your name. Ivy said nothing. Zoe persisted. You won't even look at him? They say he might not have much. Softly, I almost died once. He didn't come. Adrian opened his eyes on the third afternoon. The damage was grave, full recovery almost nil. Conscious but webbed with tubes, he whispered, Ivy, here? The nurse shook her head. She hasn't come. His lashes fell, a tear sliding into the pillow. And the boy? She brought him to pick up medicine, but only stood outside. You were unconscious. She never entered. He turned slowly toward the window, parking lot, strangers coming and going. Not her. Not the child. Then the door swung wide. His heart lurched. It was her. White blouse, spotless, posture steel straight, gaze ice calm. You came. He clutched at the words like driftwood. Ivy, I'm here because your lawyer said there are papers about the boy, she said, flat. Speak. Color drained from his face. For him, never for me. He pulled an envelope from the bedside drawer with shaking fingers. For him. A letter, account files, passwords are your birthday. I may not live to see him grow. Her hand tightened, but she didn't take it. I'll pass it on. Anything else? He rasped, voice raw. Could I see him? Face to face? She looked down. At length she answered, he doesn't know you. You weren't there when he was born, when he burned with fever, when his teeth hurt and he cried all night. Now you appear and say Daddy, what would that mean to him? Tears rimmed his eyes. I know I failed, Ivy. I do. She smiled, thin and dry. Too late. I could forgive you, but I'm not obliged to forget. The instant you told me I wasn't worth trust, I decided, he and I would never need you again. She walked out. Adrian sobbed, the sound breaking from the deepest part of him. For the first, and perhaps last, time in his life he begged on his knees. He finally understood, some people, once missed, are gone forever. 3 years later Ceramic's headquarters moved overseas. Ivy waited in the VIP lounge, watching jets glide along the tarmac. The boy sat on a kiddie chair, picture book in lap. Mommy, what time do we fly? 10 sharp. Can I have a kitten there? Yes. Will Dad come? Her hand paused mid-pack. Do you want to see him? He pondered, then shook his head. He doesn't know me. And I don't know him. She stroked his hair, saying nothing. He was too small to grasp leaving or regret, she understood too well, so she kept silent. Just before boarding, Zoe messaged. Yuri really not coming back? Jordan, more freedom abroad, farther from the past. Zoe sent a quiet emoji, then, Adrian's worse. Lives alone at the mountain sanatorium, barely speaks. Ivy's thumb hovered. Finally, wish him peace. Adrian's last public appearance was the Cross Group's 30th anniversary gala. His hair was frost-tipped, voice brittle. The room fell silent when he said into the camera, the one I owe the most has already walked out of my life forever. No one knew whom he meant, no one dared ask. Only Zoe understood the apology was for Ivy, and for himself. Abroad, Ivy built a steady life. The child grew bright and thoughtful. On his 6th birthday he declared, Mommy, I'll protect you when I'm big, like a dad would. Cameron, she laughed softly. Silly sweetheart. Mommy doesn't need shielding. Mommy carries her own umbrella. He nodded solemnly. Then I'll hold it with you, okay? She knelt, hugged him, eyes misting. Deal. Together. That winter Adrian took a turn for the worse. Nurses said he sat by the window all day watching the sky. When asked what he waited for, he murmured, someone. He left a handwritten journal. Page 1. I once had her, but I didn't find time to love her. When I finally learned, she no longer needed me. The final page, addressed to the boy, if you ever read this, don't grieve for me. I committed the stupidest sin on earth, thinking love would wait. Love doesn't wait, your mother taught me that. Ivy received the notebook after his death. She didn't cry, she simply slid the letter into a drawer and locked it, an artifact of the man she had once loved, the farewell she had thoroughly set free. Their story ends here, no dramatic reunion, no last-second redemption. She walked her son into a new life, she became the hero of her own fate. He carried his remorse and loneliness down into an abyss where no apology could reach. Sometimes love doesn't hurt in shouts, it hurts when you look back and realize the one you most wanted is already out of sight, with no road home. Thanks for listening. If this story touched you, please like and share. Tell us your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more. See you next time.